which arrived at our boma did not belie the reports respecting the productions of Ugogo. Milk, sour and sweet, honey, beans, matama, maweri, Indian corn, ghee, peanuts, and a species of bean nut very like a large pistachio or an almond, watermelons, pumpkins, mushmelons, and cucumbers were brought, and readily exchanged for Merikani, kaniki, and for the white Merikani beads and sami or samsam. The trade and barter which progressed in the camp from morning till night reminded me of the customs existing among the Gallas and Abyssinians. Eastward, caravans were obliged to dispatch men with cloth, to purchase from the villagers. This was unnecessary in Ugogo, where the people voluntarily brought every vendible they possessed to the camp. The smallest breadth of white or blue cloth became saleable and useful in purchasing provisions, even a loin cloth worn threadbare. The day after our march was a halt. We had fixed this day for bearing the tribute to the great Sultan of Mvumi. Prudent and cautious Sheikh Thani early began this important duty, the omission of which would have been a signal for war. Hamed and Thani sent 2 faithful slaves, well up to the eccentricities of the Wagogo sultans, well spoken, having glib tongues and the real instinct for trade as carried on amongst Orientals. They bore 6 doti of cloths, viz., 1 doti of Dabwani Ulya, contributed by myself, also 1 doti of Barsati from me, 2 doti Merikani sateen from Sheikh Thani, and 2 doti of Kaniki from Sheikh Hamed, as a first instalment of the tribute. The slaves were absent a full hour, but having wasted their powers of pleading in vain, they returned with the demand for more, which Sheikh Thani communicated to me in this wise: "Off, this Sultan is a very bad man indeed. He says the Musungu is a great man, I call him a Sultan. The Musungu is very rich, for he has several caravans already gone past. The Musungu must pay 40 doti, and the Arabs must pay 12 doti each, for they have rich caravans. It is of no use for you to tell me you are all one caravan, otherwise why so many flags and tents? Go and bring me 60 doti, with less I will not be satisfied." I suggested to Sheikh Thani, upon hearing this exorbitant demand, that I had 20 Wasungu armed with Winchester repeating rifles; the Sultan might be obliged to pay tribute to me; but Thani prayed and begged me to be cautious lest angry words might irritate the Sultan and cause him to demand a double tribute, as he was quite capable of doing so, and if you preferred war, said he, your pagazis would all desert, and leave you and your cloth to the small mercy of the Wagogo. But I hastened to allay his fears by telling Bombay, in his presence, that I had foreseen such demands on the part of the Wagogo, and that having set aside 120 dota of honga cloths, I should not consider myself a sufferer if the Sultan demanded and I paid 40 cloths to him; that he must therefore open the honga bale, and permit Sheikh Thani to extract such cloths as the Sultan might like. Sheikh Thani, having put on the cap of consideration and joined heads with Hamed and the faithful serviles, thought if I paid 12 doti, out of which 3 should be of Ulya quality, that the Sultan might possibly condescend to accept our tribute, supposing he was persuaded by the oratorical words of the faithfuls, that the Musungu had nothing with him but the mashiwa boat, which would be of no use to him, come what might, with which prudent suggestion the Musungu concurred, seeing its wisdom. The slaves departed, bearing this time from our boma 30 doti, with our best wishes for their success. In an hour they returned, with empty hands, but yet unsuccessful. The Sultan demanded 6 doti of Merikani and a fundu of bubu from the Musungu, and from the Arabs and other caravans 12 doti more. For the 3rd time the slaves departed for the Sultan's tembe, carrying with them 6 doti Merikani and a fundu of bubu for myself, and 10 doti from the Arabs. Again they returned to us with the Sultan's word, that, as the doti of the Musungu were short measure, and the cloths of the Arabs of miserable quality, the Musungu must send 3 doti full measure, and the Arabs 5 doti of Kaniki. My 3 doti were at once measured out with the longest forearm, according to Kigogo measure, and sent off by Bombay; but the Arabs, almost in despair, declared they would be ruined if they gave way to such demands, and out of the 5 doti demanded sent only 2, with a pleading to the Sultan that he would consider what was paid as just and fair mahungo, and not ask any more. But the Sultan of Mvumi was by no means disposed to consider any such proposition, but declared he must have 3 doti, and these to be 2 of Ulla cloth and 1 Kitambi Basardi, which, as he was determined to obtain, were sent to him heavy with the deep maledictions of Sheikh Hamad and the despairing sighs of Sheikh Thani. Altogether, the sultanship of a district in Ugogo must be very remunerative, besides being a delightful sinecure, so long as the Sultan has to deal with timid Arab merchants who fear to exhibit anything approaching to independence and self-reliance, lest they might be mulcted in cloth. In one day from one camp the Sultan received 47 doti, consisting of Merikani, Kaniki, Barsati, and Dabwani, equal to $35.25, besides 7 doti of superior cloths, consisting of Rahani, Sohori, and Dabwani Ulla, and 1 fundo of bubu, equal to $14, making a total of $49.25, a most handsome revenue for a Mgogo chief. On the 27th of May we gladly shook the dust of Mvumi from our feet, and continued on our route, ever westward. 5 of my donkeys had died the night before, from the effects of the water of Marenga Mkali. Before leaving the camp of Mvumi I went to look at their carcasses, but found them to have been clean picked by the hyenas, and the bones taken possession of by an army of white-necked crows. As we passed the numerous villages, and perceived the entire face of the land to be one vast field of grain, and counted the people halted by scores on the roadside to feast their eyes with a greedy stare on the Musungu, I no longer wondered at the extortionate demands of the Wagogo. For it was manifest that they had but to stretch out their hands to possess whatever the wealth of a caravan consisted of, and I began to think better of the people who, knowing well their strength, did not use it, of people who were intellectual enough to comprehend that their interest lay in permitting the caravans to pass on, without attempting any outrage. Between Mvumi and the next Sultan's district, that of Matamburo, I counted no less than 25 villages, scattered over the clayey-coloured plain. Despite the inhospitable nature of the plain, it was better cultivated than any part of any other country we have seen since leaving Bagamoyo. When we had at last arrived at our boma of Matamburu, the same groups of curious people, the same eager looks, the same exclamations of surprise, the same peals of laughter at something they deemed ludicrous in the Musungu's dress or manner, awaited us as at Mvumi. The Arabs being Wakonongo travellers, whom they saw every day, enjoyed a complete immunity from the vexations which we had to endure. The Sultan of Matamburu, a man of Herculean form and massive head, well set on shoulders that might vie with those of Milo, proved to be a very reasonable person. Not quite so powerful as the Sultan of Mvumi, he yet owned a fair share of Ugogo and about 40 villages, and could, if he chose, have oppressed the mercantile souls of my Arab companions, in the same way as he of Mvumi. 4 doti of cloth were taken to him as a preliminary offering to his greatness, which he said he would accept, if the Arabs and Musungu would send him 4 more. As his demands were reasonable, this little affair was soon terminated to everybody's satisfaction, and soon after the kirangozi of Sheikh Hamad sounded the signal for the morrow's march. At the orders of the same Sheikh, the kirangozi stood up to speak before the assembled caravans. "Words, words from the Bana," he shouted. "Give ear, kirangozis. Listen, children of Unyamwezi. The journey is for tomorrow. The road is crooked and bad, bad. The jungle is there, and many Wagogo lie hidden within it. Wagogo spear the pagazis, and cut the throats of those who carry matumba, bales, and ushanga, beads. The Wagogo have been to our camp, they have seen your bales, tonight they seek the jungle, tomorrow watch well, O Wanyamwenzi. Keep close together, lag not behind. Kirangozis walk slow, that the weak, the sick, and the young may keep up with the strong. Take 2 rests on the journey. These are the words of the Bana. Do you hear them, Wanyamwenzi?" A loud shout in the affirmative from all. "Do you understand them well?" Another chorus. Then Bas, having said which, the elegant kirangozi retired into the dark night, and his straw hut. The march to Bihawana, our next camp, was rugged and long, through a continuous jungle of gums and thorns, up steep hills, and finally over a fervid plain, while the sun waxed hotter and hotter as it drew near the meridian, until it seemed to scorch all vitality from inanimate nature, while the view was one white blaze, unbearable to the pained sight, which sought relief from the glare in vain. Several sandy watercourses, on which were impressed many a trail of elephants, were also passed